Oh boy, it's the O Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, CW. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to hit that bell on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast on any and all platforms. That's right. You can even tell that robot thing that, you asked the weather, because I don't want to say it because it's right behind me, to play the O Wrestling Podcast, and we'll just pop up where you can find us on Spotify and blah, 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 blah. Today, we're talking about the end of Ronda Rousey's WWE career. Now, we are in the glow, the post-Summerslam glow. The biggest party of the summer has now completed. And during that party, there was a match between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey with MMA rules enacted, and it did not go over very well. Now, that's not really anyone's fault. They tried to do something new, and I always appreciate that. But we've seen in the history of WWE gimmick matches like that where wrestlers are trying to portray something that is, for lack of a better term, real and make it, safe for each other. It never goes right. I think Brawl for All is a perfect example, which was a botch. The entire event was a botch because from everything I've heard and all the recounts of the event, they wanted certain people to win. Turns out those people couldn't fight, and the person they didn't think they wanted to win won. And then they actually decided to bury him by having him fight Butterbean. I think it was, I forgot the guy's name. Bart Gunn, I think it was. They put Butterbean in there with him just to bury that guy, just so that he wouldn't be a top guy after winning the Brawl for All. So whenever, and that was like a actual fight is what they used to call it or something. Enacting MMA rules in a professional wrestling setting can work, but you can't remove the professional wrestling part of it. That's the part that sticks. You have to actually do some wrestling. So if they had done quote unquote MMA stipulations and said, you can't pin the person, but you can knock them out, you can submit them, or they can tap out. You can have a professional wrestling match where only that happens. And, they can go for power bombs and pretend like they concuss the person. They can do all the same submissions that they would have done regardless. But it's the fact that they're doing like these kicks and knees and strikes and trying to have this very slow paced faux MMA match that really took the crowd out of it. So Ronda Rousey exits the company per, rumors that she has like a hard out because she's going to go off to do either something else or she's just ending her WWE career, whatever the case may be. There's that saying, never say never in professional wrestling. So of course, at some point they'll back a truck up to her and she'll be back to do something. But for the time being, it is believed that she's going to take off. She's not going to be in the company anymore. So I think Ronda was trying to give a rub to her friend Baszler on her way out. I don't know if this is the rub she should have given her. The match really did poorly in some people's eyes. I did read some comments. People appreciated it. I appreciate it. I didn't like it, but I appreciate what they were trying to do. And I'm a big fan of Shayna Baszler. I think she's a great talent, and I love watching her on Up, Up, Down, Down. So that has endeared me to her. So no shine off that penny for me. But Ronda, I don't know, man. I've never been a huge Ronda fan in WWE. I was a huge Ronda fan when she was in the UFC dominating. I was even a fan of Ronda. Let me clarify. I was a fan of Ronda the fighter. Her personal stuff, all her antics with like Misha Tate and all that stuff, and kind of having a reputation, I didn't pay too much attention to. But I always admired her dominance. But right when she took that kind of slide out of the UFC where she was, kind of losing and whatnot, I mean, I didn't falter for that. Every fighter gets that, that's just the nature of the game. But her going to WWE, I was like, that's perfect. She can, transition really well. She's a great, Olympian. WWE framed her when she first showed up in that match with Kurt Angle against Steph and Triple H. They gave her all the tools and they really made her look great And then she took some time off after that first run, and she had, pretty decent matches and whatnot. But when she came back, I think it was last January, and won the Women's Royal Rumble to then take the title and then did absolutely nothing with it. She just had a lot of mediocre matches. It just didn't seem like her heart was in it, which is why I think people were like, oh, if she has a hard out, she's probably just like tired of being criticized and tired of, honestly, wrestling fans going at her. Ronda Rousey is, historically, she wears her emotions on her sleeve. She's not sensitive. She's a human being. She doesn't like being, called bad, but she expresses it wholeheartedly. Like other professional wrestlers, they can kind of hide some of that, especially when they're on camera, but not Rousey. That's not her thing. So I think the lights and everything just got to her. And I don't think her heart was in it. I think they backed the truck up to her and said, we need you to come back. And she came back, and she just didn't really want to do it. So now she's on her way out, and who knows if we'll ever see her again. Again, doors always open, I suppose. But I don't know if Ronda Rousey is the same draw that she used to be. I can almost guarantee that she's not. And she came into the WWE with the hopes, I think, that she would be the women's version of Brock Lesnar, right? That cross-sport athlete that's dominant in everything and, a great worker and all this stuff. And it kind of started out like that, but then it just kind of fizzled out. And I think for us as fans and for Ronda as a talent, it fizzled out, right? She didn't get the reaction she wanted from the fans. The fans didn't necessarily get the matches that they wanted out of Ronda. And this SummerSlam match with Shayna Baszler really does put a fine point on, maybe she should head out. And not forever, if maybe it strikes her that she wants to give it another shot and she gets the passion back, she should come back. But even before she came back for the Royal Rumble, she was very wishy-washy about ever wrestling again in the first place. So my guess, I think she's going to go off and try and either rekindle her movie career or maybe start a gym if she doesn't already have one, or just, have another kid, really settle down and be a mom. She had a great, I'm sure she had a great time with her husband, giving birth to the tiny rowdy one. So who knows what's on the docket for Ronda, but she doesn't leave behind the greatest professional wrestling legacy, let's say. She was decent. I'm not saying she wasn't, but I mean, from the start, I was kind of iffy on Ronda in WWE because she didn't even have her own gimmick, right? I think she asked Piper for permission to use the song and everything and the kind of clothes. And I think that was just her wish, was to emulate the actual Rowdy one. But she never broke out of that. She was here for quite a few years and never had a change up in the gimmick. She never switched up her music. She never did anything to become a professional wrestler. She was always kind of leaning on this legacy of UFC greatness and then kind of sitting on these kind of, I don't know, if tropes, not the right word. She was sitting on these crutches, like Piper's song and that famous song. No, not Piper's song. Piper's gimmick or his look, and then that famous song, reputation, like that music to me never fit Ronda Rousey at all. Not the way she came out to the crowd, especially when she was a heel. She never switched anything up. She was so comfortable in this kind of box, or maybe the production was comfortable having her in this. I don't know. Nothing really clicked. And honestly, I hope she just finds happiness outside of WWE. Go do some game shows and have some fun. Make a video game. She was in MK11, remember? Anyway, what do you guys think of Ronda Rousey's legacy in WWE and professional wrestling? Should she go somewhere else and rekindle that fire? Who knows? Send her to Japan and see how that works out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the O Wrestling Podcast. Don't you ever forget.
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.